He's big, he's tall, he's green. Are you sure you can't lead me to the Jolly Green Giant? Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here. And this month we're going to be taking a look at the most recognized combiner team of all for the Transformers. We're taking a good look at the Constructicons. But this time around, for this month, we're going to focus more on their unified form of Devastator. Devastator is arguably the most popular and well-known of the combiners throughout the Transformers. He was the first one out the gate in 1985. He would also be available in 1986. He would be then discontinued in 1987, but he would still appear a second time in the Generation 1 toy line, and we'll get to that one next week. There's no denying the popularity and changes that were brought about to the Transformer toy line with the appearance of Devastator. Because let's face it, the following year that he was released, in 1986, there were a total of 5 combiner teams available that year. As we had the Aerial Bots, the Protectobots, the Stunticons, the Combaticons, and the Predacons. And then combiners would continue to form throughout the subsequent years up until 1990, where there would no longer be any combiners on the shelves. Heck, Devastator is so popular, he not only got to feature in one of the video games, Transformers Devastation, but he also had a significant role in the second of Michael Bay's films, Dara, Revenge of the Fallen. I don't know why I wanted to say the title of a third one for some reason. Oh boy, we're out of it today, folks. But, sorry, suffering a bit of a head cold. But today we're going to look at the original Devastator. We have all 6 Constructicons. We have Bone Crusher, Scavenger, Scrapper, Hook, Long Haul, and Mixmaster. There are going to be some that wonder, what's the big deal with the combiners? Well, from a toy standpoint, this was the original Pokemon. We had to get all 6 of these guys so that we could form the giant robot. So it gave us the impulse to go out and collect. Or at the very least, irritate our parents until we got all 6 of them. Several months after they were released on card, Devastator would get a gift set box, conveniently just in time for Christmas that year, that would hold all 6 robots together. And plus include some extra bonuses, which we will cover later in this video. In the lore, the combiners were sort of their idea of a super soldier. The idea being to merge several Transformers together to form one unified body. In theory, it was to make several robots into a superior being that would be greater than the sum of its individual components. In practice, however, that wasn't always the case. Many, if not all, the combiners did have several flaws in them that their enemies could easily exploit. Only a handful of them, really, when they were merged together, really brought about a greater being. Unfortunately, Devastator was not one of them. The Constructicons, apparently, according to the More Than Meets the Eye guidebooks, they use apparently a more primitive method of combining. In fact, the only other one in the G1 lineup that formed in a similar manner was the Pretender monsters and their united form of Monstructor. They had a similar thing where each of the 6 guys, they only became a specific component. Just like in this case for Devastator, Bone Crusher and Scavenger are both the arms, and they are the arms only. But of course, specifically, Scavenger is the right arm, and Bone Crusher is the left arm. They cannot be interchanged like a lot of the others had the ability to. Those particular types of combiners were known as Scramble City combiners. And according more to the Japanese lore, whatever configuration the robot was in with the placement of the smaller ones would grant them different powers. The best known example of that would be for Bruticus, as if he had Blastoff and Vortex as his arms, he would have the ability to fly. But if they were replaced by Brawl and Swindle, he would then have greater firepower. All that we were told here in America was that we could rearrange them to our own personal preferences. The only one that played that up a bit was Piranacon, since he had an extra figure, and all the small robots had an extra gimmick of becoming a gun. So that would mean that we could give Piranacon up to 5 different guns. Only in later years would the mention of rearranging the combiners be brought up with the form of Ruination in the Robots in Disguise line, but Ruination was basically a remold of Bruticus. Alright, at any rate, to build Devastator, you first start off by having all 6 of the robots in their construction vehicle forms. And then we go through step by step to attach or change what's needed. We will start with Bone Crusher, mainly because in the instructions he was step 1. Bone Crusher is the left arm, so you would take this particular target shooter, the one that has the hole on the top. You will plug it into this hole on the bottom, plug it into that post on the bottom. And then you can have either the left fist or one of the drill bits. We're going to go with the hand. And of course on these old ones you got to be careful because the spring may still, see, just like that, didn't even touch it and it popped the hand free. So you do have to watch out for that. And he's going to keep doing it, so we'll set the fist there so it doesn't go flying off the table. And next up, step 2 is Scavenger. They really don't have any recommendations for how you have the shovel. I'm just keeping it upright so it's kind of out of my way. Then you will use the other target shooter, the one that has the seal on the top and the hole in the bottom. You just plug it into this post, and then you can attach a hand or a drill. Instructions go with the hand because they also put the gun into this hand. Like so. The gun kind of weighs it down a bit. That kind of tells you how old this spring is on this one. Plus, we got to move his legs down, move the treads down out of the way a bit so we can fold this metal bar down. And then put the legs up, the treads back up, and then there we go. He's ready to be the right arm. We'll lay him down to the side here so he doesn't knock the bar back in. Next up is Scrapper. We'll raise his scoop up, and then you fold out his arms like so, and he will form the right leg. Step 4 involves hook. For that, we'll raise the crane arm up out of our way, pull him apart like so, and then fold him over, just like that. Then you'll come and you get the head. We'll fold the head up, and we will attach it here on the back. It will help hold the robot in this configuration. You can also take the super wing at this point and attach it. On the one wing here, there is a little clip that's barely noticeable there behind, with my thumbnail behind it. That'll connect onto this side here, which will leave the top hole of these holes in there to connect to the post on hook. Just like that. We can fold the arm back down now. And also we can attach the laser cannon to the side of Devastator's head. And I know in all the media he never had this cannon, but it came with the toy and that's where it's supposed to go. The only other thing you need to do is make sure this bar on the one side is sticking out, because that's how Bone Crusher will be connected. And then step 5 is long haul. Long haul, you will fold at the middle until he snaps into place like that. Then we just fold back the roof of the cab so that way we have access to this post and this hole. We'll take this large missile mount and we slide it in here. It'll snap into place, but do be careful. It is very thin plastic on a 40-year-old toy. Then we got this small hip shield, and it will connect into that hole underneath the cab. And then there we go. We've got the hips and waist all built. Then lastly comes Mixmaster as the left leg. And we will simply pull him out and pull the cab out like so, and then fold it up. And then there we have the left leg. Now comes the fun part of putting all this together. We will start by taking long haul here. You will attach the legs. This side is for Scrapper and this side is for Mixmaster. You just line them up and plug them in. Try to bear with me a little bit on this, folks. This is a 40-year-old toy that saw a lot of action growing up. So this is the original Devastator my brother and I had when we were growing up. And he's held up pretty well. Let's pan up a bit. Then we will get hook. As we showed earlier, there's a post on this side and a hole on long haul, and they will line up with these posts and holes in here on hook. Actually, it's on the headpiece, but you know what I mean. Alright, then next, we got this little square. We got this round hole with a square. We got a round post with a square hole in it. Flip. And that's what will connect to this bar on the side of hook. Make sure to bear in mind what direction it's in. There we go, we got him in there. We'll plug the hand in. Maybe gravity will help hold it on a little bit. And then lastly, we've got this tab sticking out of Scavenger. And there is a slot right here for it to go into. And there we have it, folks. Devastator. You can almost sense the tension in Cup's voice in the animated film upon seeing that Devastator was forming. He is a true Frankenstein's monster. Now, when we mentioned earlier about Devastator not being the best out of all of them, goes along with how the combiner unit's brain works. The individual combiner itself does indeed have its own independent thinking, but for decision making, it relies on input from all of the combined components. And I say all the combined components because in the case of Piranacon that we mentioned earlier, whoever is forming the gun does not get to have any input in what the giant robot does, as technically it is not attached to them. The lore for Piranacon states that the Seacons tend to keep Nautilator from being a combined component, due to the fact that out of all of them, he is the stupidest one, and he does tend to degrade Piranacon's combat abilities. In the case of Devastator here, he is a mix of intelligent and stupid characters. Well, not totally stupid, just the others are the less intelligent ones are a little too lax on some of their thinking. Bone Crusher here, he's their demolitions expert, but he doesn't always plan to get his butt out of the way of his own explosions. Scavenger over here is desperate for attention that he'll do anything. Now, for building Devastator, each of the toys, each of the 6 Constructicons all came with a small paper set of instructions, and that's very common to find. But what isn't is this set of instructions. This is the gift set for Devastator. And unlike all of the later ones that would be issued, it didn't fold up to show Devastator on the main page. It showed all the Constructicons. We'll start on the other side, side that has more of them. As you can basically see, it's covered all of them in one set. Basically, you would go across the row for each character, and at the end it would have their sticker placement. And each guy also had his own section that showed what he included if you had bought him individually. Mainly so that way you'd know what pieces went with what to build his attack modes. And then on the opposite side, they only allow Bone Crusher to go the entire way. Scrapper, falls just short. At the end of his row, he shows off the rub sign, the robot points, and the tech spec bio. And then over here, it gave their individual tech spec bios. Because the giant box did not include the tech specs for these guys, it came with ones for Devastator only. And then over here, you basically get a larger view of what the paper instructions had. Which basically shows you how you would put Devastator together. How you fit each component, how you transform each component. And then you'd get this last page, which had the entire build. There went the hand. We must have bumped it with the instructions. That spring is weak. But there you go, my friends. I wanted you all to see an interesting piece of Transformers history. Since all the other ones that got a gift set, it would primarily feature the big robot. Instead, this one features the small ones. Hold on to that for a moment. Alright, as we get near the end here, we'll take a look at this tech spec. I know I bought this and the instructions as an adult collector. My parents bought each guy loose. It was part of something strange. I don't want to bother explaining it. It is done up in purple to show he was a Decepticon. It says Constructicon above him. And the picture, of course, would have been the same one on the front of the box, which I do not have. It gives his name as Devastator. His function is Warrior. And there is a quote, presumably by Devastator. It says, "Thinking and winning do not mix." Awesome and terrifying. A bizarre combination of 6 Constructicons. Scrapper, Scavenger, Bone Crusher, Hook, Long Haul, and Mixmaster. Pure brutality. Sole purpose is to crush all in his path. His mind is a melding together of his 6 parts, but limited by their competing thoughts. Enormous height, incredible strength. Can knock down a bridge in one punch. Has 10,000 degrees Celsius solar energy beam rifle. Slow, awkward, not too bright. And then we move it on over here to the grid. Normally you need a decoder to read it, but I can read it pretty decently. It gives his strength as 10. His intelligence is 2. His speed is also a 2. The endurance is 9. His rank is 6. His courage is 10, his firepower is 8, and his skill is 4. So it does have him as very strong, brave, and capable of immense destruction with his weaponry, but everything else, he falls considerably short. So now we get to my thoughts. What do I think of Devastator? Are you nuts? Do you really have to ask? Devastator is a legend in the Transformer toy line. He always has been since he was released, and always will be. This is the original, and despite many of its shortcomings, it's still a pretty decent toy. I mean, as we covered in some of the other videos, why the target shooters don't work properly, so we don't need to cover that here. But unfortunately, as you've witnessed a few times here during this video, the springs do give out very easily. So it's a little hard to display this figure without the chance that his hands are going to pop off. And since the drills also attach in there in the same way, there's no guarantee they're going to be any better or any worse. About the biggest gripe to have with the original Devastator is the thin plastic on some of the parts, like the hip shield. We did cover in Long Haul that the missile mount, I should say, is made of very thin plastic, so it will break under a lot of stress. So that is one thing to have to look out for. Plus, there is also the condition of how loose these toys are. And given the fact that the Constructicons were the first combiner team, they likely saw a lot of action with whatever child happened to own them at the time. Because let's face it, this was what we wanted. This cobbled together Frankenstein's monster. And that he is in every sense of it. This thing is pure destruction, and it still looks wicked to this day. Articulation-wise, it's pretty pitiful. Like all the others, you can rotate the arms. Plus, you can bend them you can shift things at the elbow a bit. But it's not entirely perfect. The right arm has no restrictions, but seeing as it's made on a section of toy that was meant to rotate, you can't guarantee it'll stay put. And Bone Crusher here is limited because of the Super Wing. So the first one isn't really all that perfect, but it's easy to see what made him into a legend. Now, do we have any arguments to go on? His G2 form? Not really. Not really at all. A good portion of the early Generation 2 toys were just reissues of the Generation 1, with only minor changes to them. And while for some of them, it could easily be said that, sure, they could have used a redesign, maybe even other things to improve upon it. But in the case of Devastator, they got him perfect the first time out. Why mess with perfection? Unfortunately, as you'll see next time, they did. And at any rate, that concludes my review of the Generation 1 and 2 versions of Devastator. I hope you all enjoyed it. Please do remember that if you love the content here on this channel, Larry and I would appreciate some likes, shares, comments, and subscriptions. YouTube is monitoring what all of you are doing as you watch our videos. So, not just for me, but for every other channel you support. Please also consider giving to them. We certainly appreciate the efforts from all of our supporters. This is Sparkster1701 saying I will catch you all later.